we obviously want to incentivise a heavier calf and also a high CBV calf, okay? So in order for that to work, I suppose the lads need to look at their cows themselves and try and match that high DBI bull to their cows. They need to ensure that that calf can maybe achieve a minimum of an €80 CBV, and we want the calf to be at least 40 kilos.
I'm joined this week by Chloe Millar, research technologist with Teagasc, who is project manager for the Tipperary calf to beef demonstration farm. So thanks for joining us, Chloe.
Thanks for having me, James.
Come here, Chloe, maybe to start off, for people that aren't familiar with the Tipperary calf to beef demonstration farm, can you give us a little bit of a background to what it's about?
Yeah, sure. Look, I suppose you said it there. We are a demonstration calf to beef farm. So everything that comes on farm will be finished off farm. So we have 112 hectares here based just outside Fethard in County Tipperary. Again, calf to beef system. So we have steers and heifers. And look, being a demo farm, the objectives is to demonstrate best technologies and best practice in terms of profitable and sustainable production of beef calves from that dairy herd.
And the main objectives from within that then, Chloe, is there objectives around margin, around labour input? There's obviously objectives then in terms of the technologies that you're using.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's something that, like every farm, you've assessed it year on year. The forecast for the farm for 2024 is to produce a net margin per hectare of €423. Again, look, that's I suppose based off how much beef we can produce on target, and again, just all down to the beef price. So that's what we're working towards this year.
You mentioned there, and I'm conscious that a lot of our listeners will be dairy farmers. You mentioned the role of genetics, the targets in terms of carcass weight, 275 kilo carcass weights. Your criteria around purchasing calves, can you maybe outline that? And it's probably of interest to our listeners in terms of what are you actually looking for? Yeah,
so I suppose the farm itself, we're kind of setting our own trail really, in the fact that we have identified 8 source farmers that we've worked with, I suppose, since we started in 22. We initially had 4 and we kept the 4 lads and we added in another 4. So we've 8 source farmers and they all just happen to be down in Cork. So with that, I suppose there's both Jersey and there's Frisian herds involved. We look at the cows on each farm. We have a list of bulls, a team of bulls, usually around 10 to 12 bull list that we will give the lads. And they then have, I suppose it's up to themselves to pick off that list what bulls they want to use. I suppose criteria around that, obviously, look, the biggest thing around calving cows is your gestation and your calving difficulty. So we have to take into account all that. There was a good few drafts, I suppose, of this bull list, but all around, making it easier for the lads on the ground as well, but in order for us to get that good calf back too. So the lads have to use at least 3 breeds off that list. So this could be Angus, Aubrac, Hereford, or your limousines. There's a few blues on it as well. And then they have to allow us, I suppose, the choice of the calves. So they must make all calves available for us to buy. We don't refuse any calf based off, obviously the calf has to be fit and healthy, and that's really our main criteria, okay? So they have to be fit and healthy. We won't say we're taking this lad and not taking that lad. If they're off our sire list, we will take that calf, provided, again, it is healthy, okay? So I suppose for the lads themselves, they have to, I suppose the big thing, obviously they have to calve the cow. But before the calf will come to us, 5 days before transport, they will give that calf a PI3 intranasal. And I suppose that's one thing that we can kind of guarantee when the calves come to us, they're on that level playing field. So they all have got it. And it's one thing, I suppose, when you're buying directly from the farmer, that you can kind of stand over it. And the lads have been very good, and the quality of the calves that have come to us have been fantastic. We've had no calf come off a trailer and you'd say, God, we want to isolate him or anything like that. The calves are in immaculate condition coming into us. They're skipping and bucking as soon as they come in. But I suppose around that then as well, look, based on the payment of the calf, we obviously want to incentivise a heavier calf and also a high CBV calf, okay? So in order for that to work, I suppose the lads need to look at their cows themselves and try and match that high DBI bull to their cows. So
And
I suppose at the back of the mind then they need to ensure that that calf can maybe achieve a minimum of an €80 CBV, and we want the calf to be at least 40 kilos.
so, Chloe, you mentioned in terms of criteria around the genetics of the calves you're purchasing and the vaccination protocols, but what actual age do the calves move on farm?
So you can move farm to farm at 10 days of age, but for us, we want them 14 days of age. They do, on average this year, they came in around 21 days of age. Now, there was a few factors, I suppose, slowing that down at the start there was one of them was genotyping, but on average, they come to us about 18 days of age and they're weighing about 45 kilos.
Very good. And you mentioned genotyping there. Are all the calves now obviously genotype coming on farm to get that CBV value you're looking for?
In 2024, they weren't all, not all the dairy farms are signed up to it. I'm hoping 2025 they will. Any farm that isn't signed up to it, we genotype them ourselves here on farm. We do a hair sample or an ear notch on them just to make sure, like you say, that the CBV is what it is and the sire is exactly what we want as well.
So you mentioned there in terms of, we'll come to CBV maybe in a minute, but picking the bulls, you did say firstly, you actually said it in terms of about calving and gestation length. It's not that you're solely going out to chase beef traits, but it's you've identified bulls there that are obviously good on the calving and gestation, but also rank highly within the beef sub-index of DBI. Is that where it's at, Chloe?
Yeah, so we kind of look, essentially it does come down and the calving difficulty, each farmer is going to have a different threshold of farming difficulty. We try and work within that, and ultimately they're the people calving the cows. It's all very well to say for us we want these big, as big a calf as we can get, but ultimately you have to look after the cow and the man calving the cow. So yeah, we do look at the calving traits first, and then we go and we look at the beef and your sub-indexes within that. But as high a DBI as we can get to try and produce that higher quality calf for us.
And you mentioned it there that obviously those higher DBI bulls on the beef sub-index are going to deliver higher commercial beef value calves. Just for our listeners, commercial beef value, what is it? And I suppose why should our dairy farmers be breeding calves with a higher CBV value?
Look, so firstly, your CBV is essentially a value on that calf's ability to be, I suppose, a better beef calf. So essentially what you'd hope to see at the end of the day when the animal is going to the factory, that the higher CBV calf will leave you basically more profit. So on average, our CBV of our 2024 calves here is €100. I think national average could be in and around 70. So we've quite a high CBV, I suppose, herd overall on farm here.
So you mentioned there the 2024 calves. How is performance with those group of calves this summer? And I suppose what management practices have you been carrying out recently with those?
Yeah, no, calves have been good. We took in 335 calves this spring. We lost two. So look, again, that's a massive credit, I suppose, essentially to the two lads here on farm and to the quality of the calf coming in. Those calves themselves, we weighed them, they were weighed on the 15th of August. Our male calves are 152 kilos and our female calves are 147 kilos. So they're doing about 0.7. Now, I suppose, look, the males within that time, they were squeezed as well. So they have been castrated. So that would impact performance there on them. We haven't introduced meal. I suppose they were on meal when they went out for about a month and they had access to straw. I suppose, look, once grazing and the weather, I suppose, was on their side, the meal was pulled around 4 weeks and they haven't been on meal since. Now, just with grass and growth, I suppose, look, it's the same across the country. Growth is quite poor here the last couple of, I suppose, definitely this week, but the last couple of weeks it's been kind of, I suppose, targeting. It's nearly been building up to a poor cover, or poor growth, sorry. So I suppose the next week we probably will have to introduce meal, try and slow up the demand there. But overall, we're happy enough with performance on the 2024 calves.
When you do, you're really reintroducing meal at this point, Chloe, to it's where is farm cover actually at and growth rates at the moment with yourselves, maybe?
So our growth this week is 33 kilos. Our demand is 42. So like that's alarm bells for anyone straight away. So we are going to have to take action on that. The growth, look, this time of year is not going to get much better. We will introduce meal, and it will be just, I suppose, to slow up, I suppose, the rotation, and try and stretch it out a bit and just try and keep quality. Like quality in the grass there isn't massive. So just to try and keep performance going the right way for us. We will keep weighing cattle there every 4 weeks from now on, just to, keep an eye on targets and see where we're heading, just to make sure everything is going the right way. But I'd say definitely early next week we will be introducing meal.
Parasite control then with calves, what protocols have you in place on farm?
Yeah, so for parasite control on both 2023 and 2024 born animals, we will dung sample regularly. Now, with the dung sample, you're not going to pick up any lungworms, so you do obviously kind of, I suppose, use it as an aid as opposed to a kind of a decision maker. We do, so again, look on the dung samples, it's very good to pick up your worms. Once we do a dose, we dung sample before, then dose them, and then dung sample 2 weeks afterwards, just to make sure what we've dosed with has worked. So I suppose they have been dosed recently enough. They got a Dectomax injectable, so that'll cover them for a while. But again, we will be dung sampling going forward a bit more regularly from now on as well.
Okay, so it's really you're dosing based on the actual dung sample counts rather than routinely dosing.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
The plan, and we'll maybe come on to the 2023 born animals and finishing those, but the plan then for these animals is to stay grazing for as long as possible. But once you go in then, is there targets around the quality of silage that you feed, how much concentrate, and then what sort of weights you want to turn them out next spring at?
Yeah, so I suppose, look, the plan is, I suppose, graze away as long as we can. Like, we are limited here by shed space, so we will house the bigger cattle first in order to let the younger animals graze on. But yeah, once they hit the shed, they'll be on as high quality silage as we can give them. We've made good quality pit silage there, and I suppose, look, we have a lot of clover incorporated into that. We are waiting on results of our quality of our silage, but we'd be confident enough that there is good quality there. They'll probably just go on to maybe a kilo and a half max of a ration or a nut there. Once they're in the shed, that might be up to a 21% or even in the round. Again, we wanted to see what our silage quality is before we decide what sort of nut we'll give them.
Right, yeah, and I suppose it's the routine weighing during that period that is going to determine, I suppose, what you do over that period. Do you group calves accordingly, Chloe, to weight over that period?
No, not particularly. There wouldn't be a massive range in them. Now, if we did see a massive range within the weights of each group, so at the moment we have calves split just steers and heifers, but ideally, no, we wouldn't really group them based on weight. They're fairly even. But again, look, if that gap came, we would definitely be pulling out smaller lads to give them every chance.
Yeah. And then the 2023 born animals, what's the plans with those? Will there be a percentage of those that you're going to get finished off grass?
Yeah, so 2023 born animals, we've a couple of groups now. We've broken them up into 3 groups there at the minute. So I suppose firstly, last week we sent 50 animals to Tully. So we have a green feed machine here on farm. It's basically measuring methane. That's about the only bit of research we do on farm, but because our results on that were quite good, Tully wanted to continue a bit of research with those animals. So we've sent 50 of our, I suppose, our later maturing animals to Tully there last week. So that's 50 animals out of our system at the moment. We have 104 animals drafted out. There's 53 steers and that, and the remainder are heifers. These are being drafted out there early, I suppose late July, early August. We introduced them to meal on the 7th of August. They're on a 2.5 kilos of a 13% finishing nut. So some of these are definitely coming fit. They're coming fit very fast. Whether or not they're going to be, I suppose, fat before the weight is there, we're not too sure yet. They seem to be putting on fat very fast. So grass is there in front of them as well still, and that nut is really driving them on. So we'd hope to be drafting there early next week, and we probably will be sending some of them for slaughter. The remainder then, look, there's 204 other animals there not on meal. They were weighed as well on the 22nd of August. Our steers are 442, and our heifers are 390. So they are a small bit of the lighter side. Again, probably in a week's time, we'll probably try and make another draft of 100 animals. So that first draft of animals definitely hope to be gone off grass sooner than later. That second draft, probably 50-50 whether they'll all come off grass or they might have to hit the shed. That'll be all weather dependent, looks same as everything. So that's where we're at there with the finishing animals. Hopefully start drafting out of that first draft of animals for factory there early next week.
Very good. So you're possibly on target to finish up to half of those animals off grass, depending on what happens over the next 6 to 8 weeks, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And look, like everything, it could start raining there and forget to stop. So we could be hitting the shed, but hopefully not. We're having I know it's a cold September, but it's dry and it's suiting feeding the cattle there at grass. So
very, very good. I know he's had an open day recently, which was very well attended. But I suppose for our listeners, there is monthly updates for the Tipperary demo farm. I'm right in saying that, or where can people maybe get more information if they're interested in following the project?
For anyone that didn't make the open day, our booklet and our boards are available online. If you just search the Tipperary Dairy Calves Beef Demonstration Farm booklet, you'll find a copy of our open day booklet there online, which has a lot more detail, I suppose, about every aspect of the farm. We do have a monthly newsletter. You can search that online as well on the Teagasc website for our monthly updates. And we are also on social media. So we've launched social media pages there on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter, or X, whichever. So you can find us there, either the full title, if you search for our full title, Tipperary Dairy Calf Beef Demonstration Farm, or at Tip Demo Farm on Twitter and on Instagram, and you'll find us there. And we do try and post, I suppose, as regularly as we can, weights and the likes of that. So if people are interested in following us along, definitely give us a follow and keep up to date with us.
I suppose, yep, absolutely. Chloe, I want to thank you. There's obviously going to be interest from both the dairy and dry stock side, so we would encourage people to keep up to date and to follow the project. So that's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast. Thanks again to Chloe Millar for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast. You can listen on Apple, Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information, go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm James Dunne, and join us next time for your Dairy Edge.